My name is Ethan Harper. I am 10 years old and I live in Maplewood Heights. Just like any kid my age, I am just trying to survive the wild world of elementary school. I have my favorite games, friends, and teachers, but there is one teacher in particular who puts every ounce of my patience to the test. My math teacher, Miss Simmons, loves to call me the devil. Yes, you heard that right. She seriously calls me that. Miss Simmons is the kind of teacher who has an unyielding belief in the righteous path. She's very religious, always speaking of virtues and vices as if they are carved into stone tablets. Whenever I stand up for myself or other kids that my classmate Ricky bullies, she loses her mind. Instead of seeing that I am just defending myself, she blames me entirely and rewards Ricky's bad behavior with her unwavering support. Ricky is a bully, plain and simple. He is popular, athletic, and always seems to have a following. Whenever we have gym class, he makes it a point to make my life miserable. A couple of weeks ago, during a particularly chaotic gym session, everything boiled over. He pushed me to the ground like I was a rag doll. You can only imagine how angry I was, and in that moment I snapped. I swung my arm with my cast on it, hoping to knock some sense into him. I was not going to let him take me down without a fight. Thankfully, the gym teacher saw what was happening and pulled me away before I could actually hurt Ricky. But Miss Simmons had other ideas. When we returned to the classroom, she pointed me out right in the middle of her math lesson. "Ethan, you are acting like the devil," she declared, her eyes narrowed on me. Then she told everyone I needed to help Ricky with his math work, as if being forced to do it was a punishment for me, rather than a reward for Ricky. My stomach twisted in knots every time Miss Simmons scolded me, and even more when I had to help the very person who tormented me. I was unsatisfied with how things were going in my life. I felt trapped with no way out, with Miss Simmons always watching and Ricky always lurking around. But rather than let that control me, I hatched a plan. This would take some careful thought and wicked creativity on my part. I spent weeks brainstorming, searching online for everything I knew would make Miss Simmons cringe. Psychic services, tarot card readings, and mediums, every single one of them would send her into a fit. I first gathered a list of these services, feeling a thrill with each new entry I added. While I was gathering information, I kept my head low, pretending to listen attentively to her lessons, chuckling silently every time she called me the devil. Finally, the right moment arrived. It was a sunny afternoon, and I knew that Miss Simmons was busy preparing for some dull lecture about fractions. My heart raced as I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. With a little luck and a lot of mischief, I signed her up for each and every service on my list using her school-issued email address. The feeling of empowerment pulsed through me. It was as if I had become a clever fox, dancing around the traps she had set. Days passed, and nothing seemed to happen right away. I began to worry that maybe I would be caught, but I quickly brushed that thought aside. I had already heard murmurs that the school was implementing new email protocols for the teachers. I had to admit, the idea of Miss Simmons scrambling to figure out why she was getting all these bizarre emails about tarot readings filled me with glee. I became a master of disguise in her classroom. I flashed her my most innocent smile when she glanced my way. "Hello, Miss Simmons." I would chirp, my voice dripping with sweetness. At the same time, I took joy in making Ricky's life a bit more confusing as well. Whenever it was time for him to work on math problems, I would give him deliberately misleading help. Simple mistakes turned into colossal errors. He would sit there scratching his head in confusion as I did everything in my power to light a fire of doubt in his mind about his math abilities. Miss Simmons was so focused on her religious principles that she never noticed what was happening right under her nose. Watching her frustration was the sweetest victory. She would get more anxious by the day, all because of the mysterious emails flooding her inbox and Ricky's slipping grades. The look on her face was priceless, almost shocked every time he failed a test. She had her favorite pupil caught in a downward spiral, and for the first time I relished in my role as the devil. But every conflict has its low point, and eventually I felt the weight of my actions. One day after school, Miss Simmons called me to her desk. My heart dropped, my stomach started churning. "Ethan, can we talk?" she said, worry tinging her voice. I braced myself for what I thought would be disastrous consequences. Instead of screaming or accusing me, she sighed and told me about her own troubles with the unexpected emails, and how frustrated she was that Ricky was not stepping up. "Do you know anything about it?" she asked, staring me down. My mind raced. I felt like I could either come clean or continue the game. But then I realized if I told her, I might lose everything I had worked for. So I put on a brave face, smiled, and said, "Not that I can think of." Her expression shifted, and in that moment I felt a wave of guilt and triumph wash over me. Who was I to keep dragging her down? I had proved a point, and she now knew what it felt like to be on the other side of the table. And as I walked away, I felt lighter. I had taken her chaos and spun it into something amazing. In the end, Miss Simmons adjusted her expectations of me and even started to treat Ricky with harsher measures. He learned that there are consequences for his actions. I adapted to my new normal, where I stood my ground when necessary. While all the excitement of revenge faded, I discovered that I could make my own choices and learn from those difficult situations. That little twist gave me a sense of victory I never saw coming, and the power to rewrite my own story. After all, sometimes proving someone right can also be a way to show them what they're missing.